Very good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Southeast Asian IMechE webinar on today, 18th of July, 2020. I'm your host, Adrian. Today, we are honored to invite Associate Professor Dr. Bala Muralidhara Balakrishnan to share with us on the topic ethics, education, and professional practice, issues and challenges. Before we start the webinar, allow me to introduce Dr. Bala to you here. Dr. Bala received an electrical telecommunication engineering degree from the University of Technology of Malaysia in 2000. He received a Master of Engineering of Science degree from the Multimedia University in 2005, and he obtained a PhD from the Multimedia University in 2011, whereby his research is on the engineering educations. He is currently attached to University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, Malaysia as an associate professor. His research interests include engineering education research, especially ethics education, creativity and innovation, and instructional technology. Whereas I'm Yi Dian, I'm your moderator for today. I'm the lecturer in the University of Newcastle, Australia, but based in Singapore. And of course, I'm also the young member representative of the IMechE Singapore branch as well. So today I'll be inviting you all to join us to share the knowledge from Dr. Bala as well. And again, as you've seen from the first slide, as a house rule, please mute your microphone and of course switch off your video during the webinar. And if you have any questions, you see the chat box on the right-hand side. Feel free to use this function to raise your questions, and we will address all these questions at the end of the presentations. Now, without further ado, let me invite Dr. Bala to share his presentation with us on the topic again, ethics, education, and professional practice, issues and challenges. Dr. Bala, the stage is yours now.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Ko. So, a very good morning to all the audience today. I really hope that you are in a good health, and thanks a lot for actually joining this. Hopefully, it's become a very informative for you. The topic that I would like to discuss today is on the ethics, education, and professional practices, whereby we are going to look at the issues and challenges. I think I no need to introduce myself because Dr. Ko already introduced myself, in a very, in a very well manner. So I think let us just go to the next slides and so on. All right. So I hope that my voice is clear enough over there. Am I okay, Dr. Ko?
Yes, we are. It's clear.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. This is a mic testing. All right. Good. So let us go to the importance of ethics, basically in engineering profession. As we know, according to the BBC, in their 50 grand challenges, which is actually they have put down 50 grand challenges that we are going to face in 21st century. And they are divided into 50, and it can be actually gathered into 5 main elements. The first one is the AI, the artificial intelligence. So these are the challenges that we are going to foresee. We already actually have AI today, but we are going to have extension of AI and extensive use of AI in future. So AI, artificial intelligence, is going to be one of the main challenges that we are going to face in 21st century. The second one is the global development. In the context of sustainable development, is becoming a very important issue today. And that is going to be a very big challenge for all of us. I'm actually talking this not only in the context of engineers only, but as a human being, we are going to face these challenges. So I think we as an engineer are going to actually face this and going to tackle this problem together. And we as an engineer, we are going to play a very vital role in curbing these sustainable issues in future and also today. And we also have problems of social media, right? We also have the challenges in the I shouldn't say problem. We have challenges in social media, because in social media there are some issues, and at the same time there are some good things over there. So that is also going to be a very big challenge for us in the context of in the engineering profession, at the same time as a normal human in the world. And we also have a problems in issues of energy. We are going to face a massive energy problem in the future. And we already have seen this in many countries, in developed, non-developed countries, basically, and developing countries are facing this energy problem. And at the same time, we're also seeing the poor countries around the world are also facing the water problem. All right, so these are the things that we are actually looking into. And very important that we are facing today is the health and humanity problems. And one of the main issue of the health today is the COVID-19. It's actually bring us to another dimension that we have never foreseen at all in our lifetime. And it is going to be something that is going to determine the overall political policies, economic policies, and even any kind of engineering decision is going to be around the circle of COVID-19, basically. We are always going to actually tackle any problem, or we are going to face problems that related to engineering around these particular COVID-19 issues. So these are the challenges that we are going to face. And what is the role of ethics here? Why ethics is become a very important thing? Because ethics is something that drives us to become a social responsible engineers. As a student, some of you are students here also. So I will say to become social responsible future engineers who can take care of the well-being of the society, at the same time take care of the environment itself. So we have to be balanced. And as a work as an engineer, you're going to take care the society, you're going to take care the environment, at the same time you're going to take care the company also. So this is where the ethics all comes here. So these are our role in future. We have to give a better world to the next future, and we are actually need to give that to our future generation. So it is important for us to be ethical, and social responsibility is very, very important component in our life, at the same time in our profession, so that we can actually give a better world to the future generation. So what is the definition of ethics? When I'm actually mentioning ethics and ethics, what is ethics means? Ethics is a system of moral principle whereby ethics is a concern with what is good for individuals and society, and is also described as moral philosophy. So ethics is basically is binded with some moral philosophy things, binded with even a religion. So religion concepts. So that is what we call as a ethics. Whereas as an engineer, or for the students you are going to be engineer in future, professional ethics is not binded with individual ethical values. You are not binded with religion's concept, or you're not binded with cultural values. The professional ethics is something that is a standard. It's a standard, it's a moral conduct that govern the profession and its members. So there is a code of conduct for each profession. As an engineer, we all are professionals. So we do have a professional code of conduct here. So that is what we call as a professional ethics here. So professional ethics here, basically, to be more specifically, examines issues, problems, and the social responsibility of the profession itself and individual practitioner. So this is where we are always in dilemma. As an engineer, we are actually trying to see whether we are going to take care of the what we have to do as an individual to the society, or we have to follow the code of conduct that has been basically stated in the professional ethics that is set by the certain professional bodies. All right. So, for an example, in Malaysia, we have to follow the BEM, Board of Engineers Malaysia's Code of Conducts, ethics, uh, obligation, requirements, and so on. So these are the things that going to be an important thing that we have to always remember here. So, let me bring you all to some theories of um, ethics. Basically, ethics are divided into three main elements. The first one is the consequential theory. Second, non-consequential. The third one is the alternative, or we call virtual theories. What is consequential? Consequential is basically, it is depends on what is basically we are think about the stakeholder. All right. So basically, that is from the stakeholder point of view. We always think about, okay, from my action, what is going to impact to the society, what is going to impact to the environment. That is what we call as consequential. Whereas in a non-consequential, it is always depends on, it's about you yourself. You are thinking about you, and you are actually also considering about others. So you actually think about what is my duty, okay, to the others. So that is what we call as a non-consequential. Whereas in the alternative, there are two things there. One is the virtue theory by Aristotle. It is more on the characteristics of yourself. Am I being an exemplary person? At the same time, you also think about, if I do this, am I going to be a bad person? If I'm doing this, am I going to be a good person? This is what we call as a virtue theory. At the same time, in virtue theory also we have ethics of care, whereby you are actually asking yourself, am I showing care or others in my community? All right. So this is the function of the theories here. So it is important for us to avoid this egoism theory, whereby that is basically, according to our culture and religion, egoism theory, it is not proper. But if you go to Western countries, egoism theory is something that is acceptable. So in our context of society in Malaysia or ASEAN, and as a religious person, we actually have to avoid this egoism. So that is why it is always become some kind of a dilemma. Even in many ethics research that has been done, uh, researchers are always looking at the differences between Western and Eastern countries' ethical values in the context of engineering ethics. Whereby if you go to Western, they are actually accepting this egoism theory. Where when you go to Eastern, they are not actually accepting this egoism theory, because it is something that is not in line with the cultural and religious values. So this is where I think for the ethics educators, if you want to actually teach in your class, make sure that you teach all, okay, which is consists of the Western values and also the Eastern values, because we don't know our student are going to end where when they are actually become the next future engineers. So maybe they are working in Australia, maybe they will go in and work in UK, for an example, whereby egoism theory is something that is acceptable there. All right. So these are the things that we have to actually give an exposure to our students. All right. So I go to the next slide. Okay. So in the context of engineering ethics education, it need to be extended, broader, and more pragmatic approach need to be taken. That is where I'm actually asking the educators, especially the engineering educators who are teaching engineering ethics in their classroom, make sure the ethics that you are teaching to the student, even the code of conduct, if you possible, not only discuss about the context of Malaysia, but also you can actually extend it to another country and so on, so that they are able to get the idea of how ethics has been practiced in different regions. Then basically ethical action needs a conducive social structure and human action. This is very important. In a society where corruption is something acceptable, in a society where when you do a bad thing, you are being perceived as a hero. That is going to be something disaster to the country and going to be a disaster to the society. So this is where it is very important that ethical action needs a conducive social structure and human action to visit. Engineers should not only be responsive to the issues, but also need to be strive to change and improve the issues. So our responsibility is just not looking at what is happening and just accepting what is happening around us. We have to be able to be play a key role to change and improve the situation when there is issues on the ethical, all right, on the ethical context. Then holistic approach is needed to address the social needs and ethically sound, right? So at the end of the day, what is very important here is that in education, ethics education should produce an holistic engineer. That is very important. Who is this holistic engineer? An holistic engineer who can take care of the society, who can take care of the environment, and also be responsible and diligent to the company where he or she is working. So this is what ethics should bring to the ethics education should bring to the future engineers. So I really hope that educators should look into this issue, because from my research, that ethics education in Malaysia in engineering programs are not as good as what other countries are practicing. Okay, this is my own, my own view, because we are just go to the class and disseminate the knowledge of ethics education in terms of teacher-centered education. It just more focus on cognitive ability. But at the same time, we must know that ethics education is not only about the cognitive, it also consists of the values and also the skills that the student, the future engineers should possess, so that when they become the future engineers, they are able to tackle any kind of ethical problems in their working place or even in the society. So that is where I think ethics education need to be, we have to give a new kind of paradigm. A new paradigm should be set in Malaysian ethics education. There is a serious need for both ethical awareness and willpower that lead towards the aspiration ethics. All right. So we need to be aspire to be an ethical engineers. All right. For the students, for the future engineers, whereby you have to be aspire to be an ethical engineers. For those who are practicing engineering now. All right. So there is a need for new pragmatic ethics education paradigm that enhance the following. Basically, when we are teaching ethics education for educators especially, please make sure that there are three components has been fulfilled here. One is the ethical responsibility, the reasoning skills, and ethical sensitivity. So that is where the cognitive, the skill, and the value comes together. So character development is pivotal to produce holistic engineer. So as I already told you, it's a professional plus the social responsible, all right, engineers. So this is where the holistic engineers formula, holistic equivalent to professional plus social responsibility. So that is where the knowledge, the skills, especially in decision making, ethical decision making, plus the values are the key components of 21st century ethics education to characterize and build holistic engineers, right? So actually I did a case study. I did actually a comparison study among Japanese and Malaysian engineering undergraduates. How do they actually, how's their attitude and attainment towards ethical problems when they are actually facing ethical dilemmas. All right. So I did a study on engineering undergraduates in Malaysia as well in Japan. So let me just go to the what kind of approaches of teaching that happen in Malaysia and Japan. Basically, in Malaysia, the universities that I actually studied in my investigation, it's basically a standalone subject. They will call it as the engineers and society or engineering and society. All right, they will teach the subject in somewhere in third year or second year of engineering program, whereby it is just about to introduce to the students about what is code of conduct, what is the role of engineers in in the society, how they're going to protect the environment, and so on. So this is Malaysian way of teaching ethics education. Whereas in Japan, it is this ethics education or the ethical values or ethical skills have been embedded in technical subject. So when they are teaching, when they are learning about power engineering, for an example, all right, or if even they learn about any subject that related to mechanical, right, they will actually, all right, will learn about ethics, problems that may happen, okay, that related to this particular subject matter, ethical problems that will be related to the subject matter. So this ethical concept will be embedded in the technical subject itself, so that they know when they go outside, become professional engineers, they are able to tackle the problem well. All right? Because if you look at the standalone subject, they only learn. All right? They only just get the knowledge, that's all. But here, when you're embedding it in technical subject, they are able to have a better view about the ethical dimensions, ethical problems that may happen in the context of engineering practices. So what happened is that I'm actually looking at a few aspects of it, and then I measure the confidence level to solve engineering ethical problems. I could see that I could get the result that Malaysian engineering students' confidence level lower than the Japanese students. Because, why? Because in the pedagogical strategies that we have in our classroom, teaching ethics education subject, it is just a standalone subject, and it is just not be embedded in other, technical subjects. And they are not able to actually foresee the problems that they may face. All right. Although there are case studies has been discussed in that particular subject, the standalone subject, but the students not able to visualize it. So once you are actually teaching technical subject, if possible, at the end of the chapter or any part where you feel that there may ethical issues can be discussed, please discuss. So I'm actually trying to put this to the those engineering educators actually in this particular webinar. Then it means that, all right, more emphasis should be given to the engineering students on the real life problems that may happen. So this real life problem that may happen is in the ethics context, yeah, so that they are able to get more confidence to face the ethical dilemmas in future. So it's evident that the pedagogical approach has a strong effect on engineering ethics education. This is from my study. So in various approaches in delivering ethics education, is a must to get effective result. This is many research has been done. They're saying that when you actually want to build a holistic engineer, it is very important that the ethics education should be taught in various approaches. So if you look at US, basically, when they're teaching ethics education, they are not only teaching ethics in the classroom, but they will bring the students to the society as a part of the coursework of that particular subject. So they will go to the society, they will look at the problems that happen in the society, and they will try to solve the problem in the society. So that is one part where they can acquire the values of social responsibility. All right. So these are the a good thing that engineering educators should look into. All right. And this is a good time for us, especially in Malaysia, that um, as we are facing a lot of challenges, as we are going to face the 21st century challenges, I think it's a good time for us to equip our future engineers with relevant and important knowledge, skills, and values that are related to ethics education. Sorry, values of ethics, engineering ethics, yeah? All right. So we already have looked at the problems and the issues of ethics education. Now just let us look at what are the ethical issues that we are facing at the workplace basically. So I think maybe during the Q&A time, I think those who are actually practicing engineering now, you can actually add up more. All right. Let us look the issues in ethical issues in workplace. So basically in engineering ethics, you have to know that it is divided into two main elements here. One is micro ethics, another one is macro ethics. Micro ethics is basically about you, personal. Macro ethics is about the code of conduct, the rule of the company, and also the policy of the government, all right, and so on and so forth. So that is macro and micro. So that is where you will be having ethical dilemmas when you're dealing with ethical problems in future, because you have a personal ethical decision, and at the same time you will be having something that is code of conduct of the engineers code of conduct. You will be having the company rules, you will be having the policies of the government, where you may feel that, hey, I don't feel that this is good, but you have to do it. So this is where the ethical dilemmas will come. As a student, maybe now you're not able to see it, but those who are actually practicing engineering now, I think you may face this kind of a situation, right? So when it comes to micro ethics, it is basically divided into two. That is individual ethics and professional ethics. This professional ethics is your individual professionalism. All right. Are you competent? Are you actually adhere to the safety? Do you actually ensure quality when you are actually doing your work? All right. At the same time, when it comes to individual ethics, it is about your own moral values, your own moral principles, such as honesty, integrity, and fairness. All right. But when you come to the macro ethics, the professional ethics here, it is more on the working ethics, or we call it the code of conduct, the company rule, the government policy, which I already mentioned. So that is the professional ethics here. So this is where the product liability, for example, the environmental protections comes in, the public welfare also comes under the professional ethics, under the macro ethics component. Whereas in macro ethics, it is also, you have what we call as a socio-ethics. This is where you will be having sustainable development issues, and also nowadays we have also bioethics thing. All right. So these are the components, and we also have a new thing now, what we call as a techno-ethics, technology ethics. All right. So we have a lot of ethics now. All right. So these are the things that we have to, exposed to now. So as a professional engineer, I think you are actually facing this situation when you are working as an engineer, when you're practicing engineering, all right, in your company. Okay, so what are the elements, or what are the issues there when you are actually, what are the ethical issues there when you're working as an engineer? All right. So let me just put it in a very general context. I know all of you are here from mechanical, but when it comes to ethics, I think it may actually comprises all the engineering discipline. So the first issues that you may actually face every day as a practicing engineer is the safety issue. All right. So this is a very important ethical issue that become a very vital component in engineering practice, the safety. All right. The second one is the responsibility for the company. Okay, are you responsible for the company? Are you actually honest to the company? All right. Do you have the integrity to the company? Right? Are you selling the company's secret to the other companies? So these are the where the responsibility for the company comes in under the ethics. Okay, in the workplace. How your relationship with your peers. All right, this is very important because most of the places, most of the company in engineering companies and so on, we are working in a hierarchical process. All right, in a hierarchy. So when it comes to a hierarchy, let's say you are an engineer, you are actually have to report to your senior engineer. All right. So you may know that you cannot bypass him or her when you have a problem. So this is where the relationship and also the hierarchical thing comes in. So this is also what we call as the ethical issues at the workplace. Then basic rights of engineers. This is very important. What are the rights? Basically, we do have a very basic rights is that we can take medical leave when we have, all right, a medical certificate from the doctor, all right, from the, from a doctor. So it can be the doctor from the private or the government doctors. So this is the basic right of engineers. So this is also comes under the ethical issues. All right. Gender equality. This is a very important thing now because as we can see, more and more women are become engineers. All right. Although yes, there is still the numbers of women engineers are low, but all right, the numbers are increasing. Although not in a very fast pace, very slow pace, but one day you will see there will be equivalent number of women and men engineers at the workplace. So this is where the gender equality comes in. All right. As we know, there are a few things where we have to understand about women's, and their rights. So this is where we have to be very careful. So this is also comes under the ethical issues. So gender equality is an important component nowadays in ethics. And even many researchers, okay, around the world, basically doing this research about the gender equality in engineering ethics. So there are a lot of papers has been produced on this. All right. The next is the responsibility to the public. Okay, as I already told you, and as an engineer, we are responsible not only to the company that we are working, okay, whereby we are, getting our salary at the end of the day. No, it is about our responsibility not only to the company, but also to the public. So whatever system and design that we have produced, it is important that we always have in our mind whether this particular thing that we design, the system that we develop is going to be useful to the society. Is it going to be harmful to the society? So these are the questions that we should ask. All right. And very important, the environment protection. It's an important element that I would say one of the main component in ethics is about the public, at the same time also the environment protection. So this is where the sustainable development comes in, environment protection, biodiversity protection, a lot of things comes under the environment protection aspect. And we also have corruption and unethical activities. It's an issue where I really hope that none of us going to be involved in this, right? So that is where we know that this is the challenge. This one of the a very big challenge that we're going to face in future, right? Mostly on the corruption and unethical activities. I think maybe some of these professional engineers now maybe can share their experiences when it comes to corruption in these unethical activities they are facing every day. All right, so there will be some kind of issues at their workplace when it comes to corruption and unethical activities. So I really hope that the future engineers and the current engineers, basically, we are not going to be involved in these particular activities. All right. And lastly, the globalization issue. All right. So why globalization issue? It is because whatever that we do in our company, whatever that we produce, whatever things that we are doing, it's not only going to affect our country, but also going to affect the entire world. So we always have to remember this. So whatever my action is not only going to affect my society only. At the slowly it's going to be affecting the world. So you're not only have to think about the society surrounding you, but you have to think global. Right? So this is another aspect of ethical issues at the workplace. All right. So these are the which is I found. Maybe later our professional engineers here could able to add more on these issues. All right. So there are four main elements that is going to be an important thing that a professional engineer will be getting here. So we always at the crossroad where are you going to have these four components together, or are you going to just avoid all these four components? What are the things? The respect, the integrity, the honesty, and very importantly the ethics. So make sure that we always equip ourselves with these four elements so that we can become a responsible engineer, all right, an ethical engineer, not only to our workplace, but at the same time to the society and to the world. So that is a very important thing. So these are the core values of an holistic engineer. So one is the social responsibility. The second one is the integrity, all right, the commitment towards the company and to the world. And very important thing here is the trustworthy. So go back and look back whether we have these core values or not. And the educators, go back and look back at your teaching strategies of engineering ethics, whether this particular component has been infused or instilled to your students or not. So these are the things that we always have to, these are the values that we have to always bring together when we are actually, doing our daily job here. All right. So this is a framework which I have developed by myself on how a 21st century holistic engineer should be. All right. There are three components which I already mentioned to you just now. That is the skills, the knowledge, and the values. And what are the things that we can put under the skills? What are the things that we can put under the knowledge and the values? So this is what I have come. All right. And maybe you can bring this component or this framework and look back at your ethics education, how the ethics education in your classroom has happened, all right, and how this, maybe for the practicing engineers, maybe you can look at here, what are the skills, knowledge, and values that you feel that you are not still acquired, or you feel that, yeah, maybe there are few things that which I'm not, uh, you know, still lagging in me. So maybe you can think about this. So let us look at a few elements under the skills here. The skills that we need to have to become a 21st century holistic engineer is the intellectual skill, the logical. For sure, it's the technical skill is very important. But I'm looking into the ethical point of view here. So intellectual is very important, logical, decisiveness, creativity, reasoning skills, public welfare skills. So do we have this in ourselves? Right? What are the knowledges that we should possess? Right? Professional code of ethics is very important. So we have to know that when we are working in Malaysia, we have to follow the code of conduct under the BEM. Maybe we go to Singapore, then we have to follow their code of conduct. So it will be varies according to the country. All right. What are the knowledge that we should have here about the sustainable development? It's very important thing. Whatever that we develop, we design, must take care of the sustainability issues, how it's going to affect the society, how it's going to affect the environment. We also have to have the knowledge on the globalization that happens. All right. So globalization issues is a very important thing. And we have to know that socio-politics, socio-cultural, socio-technology is an important element here also when it comes to the knowledge part here. And gender equality is an important here, and human rights knowledge also a vital thing that we have to look into. So what are the values that we should have? For sure, it is on the self-esteem, all right, positivity, the leadership values, the solidarity, the social responsibility, empathy to the others, accountability, integrity, and also environment friendly. So go back and look back at here, in which area which we feel that we are not master yet here, all right, especially on the knowledge. Are we good enough in looking into the aspect of social cultural issues that happen not only in Malaysia but all over the world, right? So these are the things that we actually have to focus on, all right? So I think with that, thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity, and thanks for listening. And I pass to the moderator, Dr. Ko, for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bala, for the sharing of the theory of ethics and some examples where engineering ethics are taught in the university as well as workplaces. And from there, ensuring our future engineers are abide by the core values in ethics. And of course, at the end of the day, becoming an holistic engineer with necessary skills, knowledge, and values. So over here, during the presentation just now, we have collected a few questions here for Dr. Bala. Let me ask the question one by one here. Well, the first question, Dr. Bala, do you think that our syllabus today is too academic and not industry enough?
Yes, that is in Malaysia, yes, because when I actually look at the syllabus, it is more only focusing on the knowledge base. That means basic knowledge on what is the role of an engineer for the environment, what is the role of engineer on the sustainable development. That's all. They're just talking about the role and some elements about some practices also a little bit here and there. But the real practices, what are the real thing that they are going to face, all right, it has not been discussed or not been exposed to the student well. So this is where I think Malaysian ethics education curriculum need to have some kind of changes here.
Okay, so we are looking for some of the university who might want to be pioneering in changing the syllabus then.
Yes.
Right, next question. Uh, we all know that Japanese have excellent work culture that takes pride of their work. So what is your view on different work culture that means Japan and Malaysia and its relationship with ethics and integrity of engineers?
Okay. The first thing is that I think ethical values has been practiced in Japan since young. Since their preschool itself, they have been given the what we call the concept of Ningen Roiku. All right. So Ringen Roiku is one of the element that is very binded with the ethical values. So they will teach them how an individual should be responsible to him or herself, plus how an individual should be responsible to the society, and how an individual should protect the environment, and entirely how an individual should protect the world. So this is the concept has been embedded since young. So that is why we can see that the way of their working practice, ethical values is very different from us. Whereby we are just focusing on moral values. I think we are just, and also in our school we are learn about the values of moral. We only learn about religion, but whether we really practice the values, it is a question mark.
Right, thank you, Dr. Bala. Yeah, it just reminds me that during the whole presentation of yours, as well as you answer the question just now, my mind was keep popping up my SPM time where I was like keep learning that 16 nilai murni for my SPM moral
Yes, correct.
examinations. Yep. Now the next question, Dr. Bala, is ethic a value that is gifted to selected field, or it could be a taught and learned?
It is something can be taught and learned, not taught and learned, but it should be acquired,
Right.
practice, and should be put in yourself. All right. So thought and learn is more on cognitive. So you just
Yep.
put it in your brain. But ethics is actually should not only put in your brain, but it should be straightly transferred to your heart.
Yep.
Right. Then it is going to fulfill the meaning of ethics education here.
Yep. Okay. Right. Right, thanks. The next coming up questions. Dr. Bala, can you give one example of a good approach in teaching engineering ethics in Malaysia so that the subject does not become dry and become interesting and covering effective domain of student rather than cognitive?
Okay, a very good question actually. So this is the this is the first time I'm doing a webinar whereby this very wonderful questions has been thrown up to me. So I think IMechE, you are doing a very wonderful job here. Okay, so let me answer the question lah. So this is my praising here, not to actually to avoid the answer. Okay, so don't worry about that. So actually, a very good strategic that we can have is what we call, all right, service learning. All right, that has been practiced in many countries, including Japan, UK, US are doing this. So as I know that all of us actually have this, I think all of us went through this course, what we call engineering in society or engineers in society. What we do is maybe a 3 credit subject or 2 credit subject. We will go into the class, we'll attend the lecture, we learn, and at the end of the day, we'll do an exam, then we pass, right? Whereas actually the learning strategic that we should have here, it is what we call a strategy where we call service learning. That means we have to bring our engineers, our future engineers, outside the classroom, go to the society and look at the societal problem, look at the environmental problem, or even go to the, see the global problem, solve the problem for them using your engineering, your engineering knowledge, your technical knowledge that you gain. So your plus with your, you know, you bring it and solve the problem the society. So that is what we call service learning strategic. So it will be actually somehow many research article also says that service learning could able to improve the students' value, the students' capability in appreciating ethical values. So I think this is a very good way that our Malaysian universities can actually see again, or revamp their curriculum structure of ethics education.
Okay, thank you. And the next question from the audience is that, Dr. Bala, what other countries did you do your research from, and what are the differences between them?
All right. One is Japan. So I already told you that Japan actually embedding ethical values in their technical subject. Whereas, let's say when they're teaching about power engineering, they are talking about green technology. They are talking about the how to protect the environment in the syllabus itself.
Mhm.
All right. So they will say that, okay, when you are learning about power engineering, do not waste power, do not consume more power. Try to think about how to use renewable energy. Okay. Try to think how to design something that is use the renewable energy. So that is how Japanese have been teaching the ethics. Whereas if you look at Indonesia, this is also another country where I have a look at their ethics education. In Indonesia, it's also a good thing is where they also have this what we call service learning, right? They will go to the society, nearer society. All these engineering students will go there and they will go to the kampong, all the rural places, and they actually they will using their technical knowledge in improving the or maybe solving the problem of the village people. All right. So this is a way of doing ethics,
Okay.
ethics subjects over there. So this is how Indonesians also are doing. And even Indonesia are using one concept, what we call mindfulness learning. That
Hmm.
means they're using the concept of religion also. But in Indonesia, they don't focus on what we call it. Yes, it's an Islamic country, but they're not only focusing on Islam, they also, focusing on the concept of Buddhism actually, on the concept
Yes.
of mindfulness. Okay, this is what will happen in University Pembangunan Yogyakarta. Okay, in the engineering program, they are actually using this concept of mindfulness. That is, I think it's originated. It's not. I think it is originated from Buddhism concept,
Yes.
which they are actually using that. They using the concept of dharma. Okay, in preaching about this ethical concept to the engineering student. So you think when I actually look at their curriculum structure and all, I feel so happy when I look at that because this is something that is good, which we in Malaysia need to practice it.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So we talk about Indonesian having the Buddhism influence. The first thing came to mind also Yogyakarta because of the huge Buddhist influence there. And perhaps next time you might want to consider Singapore as well as Australia. Hint, hint. Right. Anyway, next question to the Bala. Apart from teaching, sharing knowledge and ethics to the undergraduates, what else can the society do or what role can the society play to ensure that professionals practice and to ensure that professional practice their profession ethically and professionally?
Can you repeat the question because there is some
Correct, yeah. I
delay.
scolded the person just now. Anyway, he was a student. Oh, he is a student. Right, anyway, apart from teaching, sharing of knowledge and ethics to the undergraduate as a teacher, now what else can the society do or what role can the society play to ensure that professional practice their profession ethically and professionally? So it's more like
Okay.
what can the society what kind of what role can the society play to make sure that those engineers really practicing their professions in the ethical way and the professional way.
Okay. All right. Good. So I think society won't disturb you when it comes to ethical issues here. So the society will always love when you're doing something that is good for them. That is not a problem here. Okay. That is the only problem here is that what is your role to the society? Okay. The engineers should play a good role to the society, and the society will eventually will come and support you in that terms. right? The only thing that will be disturbing you is the government policy, all right? The government policy should actually help engineers to practice whatever that they're doing so that they can do it ethically. The policy should be there, and there should be some political commitment also in order to bring our engineers to actually practice engineering in ethical manner so that we can contribute to the society. So I think I will answer in that way
Yep.
actually.
Okay, right. Thank you. And I think we're taking one last question here. Dr. Bala, in your opinion, who is in a better position to teach or share knowledge in ethics? Should it be necessary a person who is senior or expert in their profession or an educationist?
Okay, very good question. Yes, good. So this is where not uh, educationists are good when they are actually teaching on the knowledge of ethics. There is no doubt about that. Okay, that is the role of educator. But if you want to talk about the real life ethical dilemmas that been faced by the professional engineers in their daily life, it is good to bring the real engineers come to the classroom, not every day, but in some slots. Okay, the educators can actually invite the professional engineer to come to the classroom and talk about the real situation that happened at the workplace. All right, any ethical dilemmas that happen, okay, how they tackle the problem, okay, what are the real problem? Because as we can see in the engineering textbook, or engineering in society, or engineers of society textbook that we do have, all right, it's just about case studies which is already been used for many years. There is not much changes in that. Whereas now we have the different problems. All right, the recent problem is COVID-19, and we have a different problem already. But still, we are having a case study on NASA, which is launched in 1970. Okay, because I have seen one curriculum, one syllabus of one university, the case study for ethical dilemma still being given the NASA launch in 1970 or 1980, if I'm not mistaken. They're giving the same question again and again. So this is already like 40, 50 years ago. Why you want to bring it in this context? So you have to
Yep.
be a new one. So this is where I think real practicing engineer should come to the classroom also to share their knowledge, to share their experience when
Okay.
it comes to ethical issues here.
Okay. Right. So we have one last question here. We have seen many cases where professionals not made accountable for the unethical practice. Not many reports of such case. Should these be exposed to public?
Okay. When it comes to exposed to the public, then later we have to go to the law. So that is where we have to look at the code of conduct. So that is
Right.
why the professional code of conduct is very important. When a
Right.
person doing something wrong, is it we have to be in our society nowadays we call viral. Are you be going to take the video and just put it in the Facebook and make it that person viral? It's not like that. That is why we have to know that yes, we do have obligation
Dr. Bala, you're breaking off.
as in the ethical thing. Okay. Uh, can you hear me now?
Uh, uh, Still breaking off in a bit. Uh, you may want to repeat your phrase, just last sentence again.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Still a little bit of a breaking off.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much clearer
All
now.
right.
Yep.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good. Okay. So you can see here that, all right, yes, we do have actually obligation as an individual when we look at our peer, let's say one engineer that we have worked in the same company doing something wrong, we want to quickly expose to the society. All right. But we have to know that we have to follow the rules of the company. That is one. We have what we call professional code of conduct. That is, we have to follow the BEM's law if it's Malaysia. All right. And at the same time, we know that whether exposing someone else is an ethical thing or not. All right. So when you are asking my opinion, I will ask you to follow the rules and regulations that's already there. What you should do as a whistleblower, are you going to say about the any misdeeds straightly to the society, or it's better to bring to the authority that will handle the thing? So I will actually prefer the later. Okay, let the authority to handle, not exposing to the society. It's not a good thing. I know all the youngsters here are just have a have the that kind of mentality. Okay, viral it in Facebook, viral it in Twitter. That is very important. Okay,
True.
so don't follow that way. Okay, we have our own code of conduct.
Okay. Right, with that, thanks a lot, Dr. Bala, with us today on the topic ethics education and professional practices, issues and challenges. It has been a very, very fruitful discussion this morning. So once again, on behalf of IMechE Southeast Asia regions, uh, thank you, Dr. Bala, to be here to be with us. Just before we end the webinar today, a few more webinars coming up in the next few weeks. For example, what you can see right now in front of you, we have one webinar conducted by Mr. Zheng Teng, our IMechE SEA Business Development Manager, on the introduction of IMechE to working professions. That is on the 23rd July 2020, 4 to 5 p.m. So if you're interested in this, make sure you attend this webinar as well. And of course, there are some other webinar coming up, like the next one, I remember, yes, next week, right? Same time on this platform as well. We have Engineer Chua as well as Ms. Cho with us talking about effective management of IMechE student chapters, what it takes. So if you are taking some of the important roles in your student chapters in your university, make sure that you attend this webinar because that will be a very good help in your organization of your student chapters. Do you have some other events here? Yeah, yeah. So once again, thank you for attending this morning's webinar.